Okay, we're going to just have a quick little video about how to use Desmos, since this is the software that we're going to be using. You can think of it as like New Zealand Grapher or any other software that we use to assist us with doing this. We could use and may use our graphing calculators, but actually Desmos Graphing Calculator Online is a much easier way to sort of practice our graphing techniques and so on around what we're going to have to do for this particular internal. So on page 9 of your Walker book, you're going to work on some of these equations. I'm going to place the very first equation in here, and you'll notice that New Zealand Grapher or Desmos will plot this graph for you, which is very handy. And what you need to be able to do is get this graph from here online onto your book and onto a piece of paper, because that's what you're going to be doing with your internal. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. One of the ways is to just identify a couple of points, because all you need is 2 points in order to graph a straight line graph. So I can click on a point like this y-intercept, which is 0, 5, and I can click on this point, which we call the x-intercept, which is -5 and 0, and I can get those 2 points, and then I can plot those 2 points onto my book at 0 and 5 and -5 and 0, and then I can draw my straight line. The other option is you can turn an equation into a table. So if I highlight that bar in Desmos and I go to the plus sign, I can add a table, which means that basically I can find some points. So if I put in 0 and, let's just make this into a table. So let's do that again. So if we take the y equals x plus 5, again, we can use a couple of points, but we can also turn this into a table by hitting this cog wheel here and then hitting this convert to table. So what it does is it presents a whole whack of x values for me and some points. Now, I only need 2 of these points in order to plot a graph. It doesn't matter what 2, and then you plot those and you put those on the graph. So this is just a little bit of a brief introduction to Desmos and what it can do. So if I do y plus 3x is equal to 6, and plus, I can turn, so if I want to turn this off so I don't see this other graph, I can just unclick that 0 there, so that other graph x plus 5 goes away. And now I only have y plus 3x is equal to 6. Again, what I can do, and I can move this around, and I can zoom in and zoom out with these pluses and minuses here. I can also go into my wrench and I can change the x-axis, and I can go by a step of 1 and a step of 1. And so I can do a bunch of things to this if I want a few more values, or if I want to be able to zoom it out and so on. So I can do a bunch of these things with the interface. Now I've got this graph, and again I can use the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So here's the x-intercept, 2 and 0. So I would plot 2 and 0, and here's the y-intercept of 0 and 6. So I can go into my Walker book, I can plot those 2 points, and I can draw the graph. The other option is to go to your cog here, this wheel, and no, I'm not done. Why it won't let me do a table? Oh, I guess it won't let me do a table because it's not in x, y is equal to x plus 6. So for this particular situation, it won't give me a table. So that's okay. I can still use my x and y axis, all right? And that will work for this. We could rearrange that, but that's not a big deal. So you've got to learn how to use this. Y is equal to 36 minus 6x. I can turn that one off, and now I have this one. Now you'll notice that I can get my x-intercept, but I don't really know where my next point is exactly. And so I may have to scroll out a bit. So again, I can do this, or I can do this, and I can get some points. So I could get that, and I need maybe that one, 0 and 36. And if I can plot that on my graph, those 2 points, 0 and 36, and 6 and 0, then I can plot that graph and I can draw a line through that. I don't think I'm going to be able to, oh yeah, it will let me do a table for that one. So some of them they'll let you do tables for, not that one so much. Okay, so depending on the form that the equation is, sometimes you can get a table of values, sometimes you won't, sometimes you'll just have to use the x and y intercepts. So let's try this one. Turn that off. Just out of curiosity, y minus x equals 6. There's the graph. Again, I can sort of zoom it out and play around with the zoom out a bit if I want. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. I can get the y-intercept here, which is 0, 6. I can get the x-intercept, which is -6 and 5. I can plot those 2 points. I don't think because of the form that this is in, it's going to give me a table. Nope, it's not. So I'm going to have to rely on that to give me my 2 points. Okay, now can I slide through here and get some other points? Sure I can. Don't know if they're going to be exact. -5 and 1, that's probably an exact point. -6 and 0. So sometimes the x and y intercepts will work. Sometimes it will give you a whole table of values depending on what form this takes. So let's just have a play and do pages 9 and 10 on Walker and see if we can get that to graphs, if we can get graphs for those on those pages.